My name is Drue. My connection to Bryce Washington is he's one of my really good friends. He's my roommate, and he also plays football with me on the Mesa football team. I happen to be multiracial. My father is a plain white Caucasian man with many European, diverse European background. My mother happens to be Haitian. She was born and raised there, spent the majority of her childhood there, and the two met in New York and ended up having me. There are many advantages and disadvantages of being multiracial, particularly being multiracial when you are black and white. The advantages are that in a way I can relate well to both races, the African American culture and many people from that race, and also the white culture, people from that race. But then it can also be a downfall at the same time because you don't fully relate to either side. Growing up, I spent time for the first part of my childhood in a primarily African American side of town, and then later parts of my childhood I spent in a majority Caucasian side of town, and the two were different in many ways but alike in one way, and that was that unfortunately there were times where I was excluded from the African American group for not being completely African American, and there were also times that I was excluded from the Caucasians for not being completely Caucasian. I was associated with the minority race in either side at some points. I do not necessarily mind this. I love who I am. I love being multiracial. I feel like personally I look at it as a positive way that I get the best of both worlds. And you know, I do not necessarily, growing up I would never feel awkward in a crowd unless I was with one of my parents and the crowd was the opposite race of them. I used to play rec football in a primarily African American park, and my father would always take me to practices, and he would be the only white guy around. And sometimes that would make for a little bit of an uncomfortable atmosphere at times. And you know, my mom is a very proud cheerleader for me in my football games in high school, and at sometimes she would sit at a different section of the stadium from many of the Caucasian parents due to, you know, sometimes the fear of judgment and, you know, things of that nature. But anyways, I'm scared of it. I'm proud to talk to you about this subject on behalf of Bryce Washington. Thank you.